Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is part 2 of Think, Plan, and Pray. I want to assist you, the people of the world, and especially America, in preparing yourselves strategically for some up-and-coming circumstances. And by circumstances, I mean both natural, governmental, and possibly some personal situations that you may find yourself in the up and coming years. The onset of these circumstances began last year in 2020 on the onset of the COVID-19 or the pandemic. And during that time, we noticed that there were what we call shutdowns and limitations of some supplies, basically because some people were hoarding or overbuying. But for over a decade or more, there are people who we call preppers who have been preparing alternative housing solutions, water, food, so many other things. They've been preparing for a very, very long time. But for the majority of individuals, I call them the masses, that hasn't been so. But I'm going to give you some very specific information concerning the progression of what has been occurring. During the pandemic, although many people were shut in, there was a lot of meticulous and strategic planning going on while we were inside. There were connections being made, technology transitions from 5G. A lot of rural places were being connected technologically that were often considered off the grid. So there were places where you could go and you probably wouldn't be located or found, along the highways on the poles. They're putting, information or what we call radars or GPS systems. There were new towers going up everywhere. So there was a lot of productivity going on during the time of COVID-19. And I noticed that some, vehicles were on the road, some strange individuals with these little whack jackets with what we call, construction jackets with the reflectors on it. Didn't look official at all. What we call common cause. They weren't affiliated with any entity or construction company, maybe a work truck every now and then, but these activities were going on all over in the rural areas. And I noticed they were all on poles connecting and working on things like that. And this wasn't your traditional electrical companies doing what we call maintenance or cutting trees. So be aware that things were going on to make the transition of power and to bring forth the new world order even then. As we begin and merge closer to the nucleus of the pandemic, there were shortages. Some of the shortages were very much explained because, especially in the dairy community and in that industry, schools were closed. There were a lot of events shut down. A lot of supply, a need for the milk wasn't occurring. And when you're dealing with a business such as that, an industry such as that, you must understand that cows don't stop producing milk because it's COVID. So the cows were continuing to produce the milk in the quantities to supply a functional society, a capitalistic society. Schools were closed. No milk in the cafeteria needed. Yet so many other things. Manufacturing companies were shut down. They didn't need it in the recipe. So there was actually footage of milk trucks just spearing it out in the fields, just thousands of gallons of milk, a lot of waste, a lot of waste. There were crops that couldn't be harvested because you couldn't get anybody in to work. Some people were scared to get, they were going to catch the virus. There are still imports all throughout the world, and in this country, the United States of America, in those ports, they still have crates and so many goods that have been held for almost a year. that hasn't been disseminated throughout the country. The supply chain is totally jammed. Some of that stuff may be time sensitive. So if it's not good, whether it's a chemical, whether it's outdated, a piece of technology or chips, we don't know. We also know that things such as the furniture, they had to delay the furniture, are important a chemical in making the foam that goes into the furniture. A lot of cushions for couches and mattresses. That particular chemical, I think they stopped manufacturing it, or it was slow, very slow manufacturing during COVID. And with the human capital, individuals who are not working in all areas, is really causing discourse throughout the world. And in some areas, there are legitimate shortages that can be explained if we could get the information. Last year, about March, I sent an email out to my immediate family members and a couple of other people, acknowledging them and really beseeching them to be aware, stop putting up some real food. Unless you're able to pay $25 for 4 to 6 wings, chicken wings, it's going to be a problem. In March of 2020, I bought a case of chicken wings for $65. By March of 2021, that same case of chicken wings was $103, $106. Do the math. So I am going, in this particular recording, part 2 of Think, Plan, and Pray, I'm going to discuss 4 things. And I will add to this as necessary. And the first thing I want to discuss is water. The importance of water. We can live without many things, but we must have water. Prophetically, geographically, and scientifically, there are issues with waters. There are droughts, reservoirs are dry. In California, different places, rivers are low. And there's a natural issue. There have been several cities that have had serious issues with supplying their citizens with clean drinking water because of old piping, and other things. Some people are now complaining about water that smells funny in various cities, whether it's country or whether it's an urban area. Your water sources are important. Those of you who do not have, are living in apartments, small spaces, but you have a little extra money, now is the time to get you a storage, rent a storage, start storing up some water. Get rid of some things out of the garage or out of a room. Put water in every space and place that you can. It's not about being convenient or having a, quote, a lifestyle now. It's about preparing for what is to come. And if you don't have land or ground space or huge on-site storage to start stocking water, do what you can. Call friends, call your grandmother who has a house. She's there by herself now, empty bedroom. See if you can start storing water in one of those bedrooms. People are only coming to visit twice a year. Take over a bedroom, take the bed down, start storing water. Water now, bottled water, you can get an entire case at Sam's, 45 bottles for about $4. This is what you should be doing instead of buying fashion, buying new video games. Start storing water. Because when rations come, even when you're in the city and you have some water and they only allocate a certain amount of gallons per household and you cannot control it, it's going to get to that point where they are literally going to put gauges. Once you reach your 50 or your 100, not even that, 50 gallons a day, what are you going to do? And then what are you going to do when it's going to be no water access or the entire water source may be contaminated? There are people within the faith who've had innumerable dreams of polluted water, water that's almost like blood, almost likened to the plague, the historical plague of Egypt. Some people have had dreams about smells or chemicals or something in the water. You may think it's foolish. You can call it some type of biological terrorism, but I am literally saying from all aspects of research, we're going to have an impending issue with water. Drought is an issue. Old piping, pollutants that are getting into underground water sources. We are going to have some issues. So I'm encouraging you to begin storing drinking water, and that is the bottled kind. Some spaces, please, in your home, make it a water zone. Take a bedroom, go ahead and pack it from the floor to the ceiling. Because I promise you, if you can't use it, someone else will be able to use it. And also remember, if there's a real shortage, that $4 case may be $20. If a box of chicken wings has escalated from $65 to $106, what do you think? Water. Water is a lot more important than chicken. Moving on. Harvesting sources. Those of you who, I don't care where you are, if you're in an apartment, if you're at a house, a trailer, I don't care. They normally have something called the water trenches or whatever on the house that run the water down. If you're at the apartment complex, ask them if you can start storing something up, or if something should happen, can you use your barrels to collect some water, or at least get permission so when the time comes, if you can use it. If you're at your house, it's time to start storing some water. And this is not necessarily water you drink, but water for flushing toilets, water to bathe. I've even seen in one particular dispensation on YouTube, they taught us to cover the water, even if you can get barrels to put them in and to seal them. They have specialty tabs that you can put in there to make sure that it stays decently fresh. You cover it with black plastic or things which you cannot get sun, so bacteria can't multiply in it. Put it in a very dark place and just store it. This will be water that you can use for washing yourselves, washing things, for washing clothes. This is what you do with that water. So as many barrels or anything you can get, start harvesting rainwater so you will have it. Store it away from the sun and get the necessary purifying tablets to go in there. Get as much Clorox or bleach as you can get, because bleach, when you're needing to clean, a little water goes a long way once it has a proper amount of tops full of bleach. Start storing as much bleach as you can get, because bleach is going to expand the use of your water when it comes to cleaning things that you don't mind using bleach on. As long as it's not taking the color out of, it doesn't matter. If you have dishes, bleach will help. Even bathing you, if you're not allergic, it will help. It will kill bacteria, for one thing. It will purify, will keep things white. It'll stretch the use of the water. Get water filters for your drinking water, because even today, even the water you buy in the bottles, people are beginning to question how really clean it really is, okay? Get you some filters. There are some places where you have Jacob's wells, open springs that are still flowing. Try to get some of that water stored up properly. If you can get to a natural spring, store up some water that you may be able to drink. Learn how to repurpose water, and even at some point, maybe one day out of every 2 months until this thing takes place, learn how to live on a little water. Estimate the processes of what it's going to take you all day. How much water is it going to take for you to get a nice wipe off? I didn't say a shower or a tub bath, and stay clean. How much water will it take to flush the toilet? See, if you don't know what to do with a ration of water, it's not going to do you any good. You're going to be very wasteful. Do you know how to flush the toilet without pulling the handle? Some of you never had to do it. Think about it. How much water will you have to pour down into it to get it to flush? Do you know you can use your bath water to flush the toilet? The kitchen water that you use to wash the dishes. Get an idea of repurposing water now, because the water that you use for bathing, for washing dishes, for washing the car, for washing clothes, that's one thing. Those can be recycled. A lot of that can. And to flush the toilets. But when it comes to your food and your ingestion, you have to make sure that that water is absolutely purified and cleaned. Look at some videos, do some research, but be aware of the things that you might have to do. There are some cities and individuals who had to learn how to do this, catch rainwater, use it to wash dishes. Detroit was one of them. These are real life things that should not have occurred in 2021 or 2022 and beyond, but this is what we may have to deal with. Moving on to number 2. Food processing and cooking alternatives. First of all, the most sensible thing to do is to get as many dry goods as you can. Canned goods, I don't really like canned goods, but they are practical. Dry goods like rice, beans, and pasta, flour, sugar, salt, and sugar. I would advise you now, while you're buying meat and while you're buying vegetables, go ahead and wash the meat, wash the vegetables, and process them. When you put them up in the freezer or whatsoever you do, make them cooking ready. Because with water shortages in the future, you don't want to have to use water to wash meat and vegetables. Go ahead and do it now as you put it up. Make sure, especially in the freezer, in those quart bags and in those gallon bags, make sure they're already prepared. Learn how to use a Silla meal. The Silla meal, make sure you go ahead and cook the food. Don't just can it raw anymore. The Silla meal, just look it up. It has the bags and what it seals and sucks all the unnecessary air out. Very professional, very long lasting, especially even in the freezer. Even on a little ice at a room temperature, reasonable temperature, you should be able to maintain some foods even if you lost power for a while. But buy the food already being cooked when you put it in the Silla meal bags. The only thing you would have to do is heat it. Now, let's talk about heating the food in case you had to do something uncommon. It would be good to have an old school or 2 to 4 hour hot plate that you could connect to a generator if you have to do that, and you can heat that. You can also do barbecue grills or pit grills. Now, barbecue grills you buy at the store, that's one thing. Need propane or whatever. But some of you have land, you have a backyard, you can build you can actually build an in-ground stove similar to the ones they have in Haiti, where you can use brick, concrete, and stone, and go ahead and build a pit or something where you can actually cook if you don't have, and use firewood just in case you can't get access to propane, kerosene, and gas. We'll talk about that later, but we're talking about cooking now. Wood has always been a great idea to cook with, especially if you have a little land and you can get out of the city. You'll be able to cook just in case you don't have power outages, are occurring all over, even as I'm doing this this video, because we had not very many days ago a serious tornado episodes that went all through the southeastern region, knocked out power for several states and cities in several places. We don't know about the natural disasters that are to come and how they will affect us. But based on the spiritual regimen and things that are going on, there's a lot of unrest. Some of these power outages on average now are at least 7 to 10 days. Anything longer than that is going to be all out chaos. So it is best that you learn or prepare, those of you that have land, what to do. Those of you who are still in apartments or in smaller spaces, a generator will not hurt you. Buy one and put it in the closet. You do have a deck or something. You never know if you're going to have to put it on the ground and run some cords up or around the building, into a window, into a side. You can still have it. Prepare for that, because that's part of the processing of food. There are not many things you're going to be able to eat and eat well and enjoy without being able to heat food or be able to bake food in some shape, form, or fashion. So I highly recommend those that can create an outdoor stove independent of propane, kerosene, and any type of external energy force other than wood. Let's move on back to the old way of also salting meat. I remember my grandfather had what we call meat house or salt house, which, you know, he killed a hog, he salted out, it'll hang there. And I remember how good that bacon used to be. And I'm sure you can salt other meats, salt it out or smoke it out. When we watch footage concerning individuals living now in places like Alaska, they smoke salmon often, frequently, all types of fish. Learn how to do some of these techniques, because if you're able to get to a pond to even fish, the fish you catch, you can smoke it and preserve what you don't use that day for later. These are all tips of food processing and cooking alternatives, just in case. Number 3, energy sources. We take for granted that we always go to the switch on the wall, flip it on, it's there. We take for granted that we can go to the gas station and fill up our cars with gasoline just when we feel like it. Drive home, get up in the morning, I'll go do it later. But when you're preparing for inconvenience, for lockdowns, for shut-ins, for shortages, and even possibly for some escalating prices in for energy products, you want to make sure that you have some form of extra things stored. And I'm speaking of gasoline, propane, and kerosene, as many as 25 to 50 gallon storage containers that you can purchase, that you can look online, that you can purchase them. They'll bring them out to the house. You can call companies, and they begin with 50 gallons or more to fill your tanks up, that you will have what you need, when you need it, how you need it. Those of you who are in cities that have a lot of extra cash, it makes perfectly great sense to go ahead and purchase a property in an area. Make sure it is completely supported by energy sources in which that you can maintain and control without being on the grid. If you choose to be on the grid, you can. If you choose not, your home will still be quite comfortable. Other things such as solar energy panels that power batteries, directly connected to batteries, and the batteries, actually the battery power is used to fuel something else, from tools to refrigerators to whatever in your particular house. So think about that also. These alternative energy sources, when I say alternative, I mean, you're going to need them just in case there are shortages. You want to be prepared. Remember, your cars, everybody's not on an electric car yet. Your car needs gasoline. What happens if they start rationing 5 gallons per car? What are you going to do? All right. So make sure you have your energy sources. I would strongly advise those of you who are like me, who have to use technology quite a bit, get a rechargeable battery pack or something that will have quite a bit of power you can harness from the sun, and use that to begin to charge your laptops, your cameras, and your phone. Those are things you know you want to be able to maintain charging. So I would advise people to purchase an external charger, a solar charger, in which you can connect with a USB, or you can connect with a regular plug and decipher that energy into your phones. Phones are going to be important. All right, let's move on. Number 4. Number 4 is the final discussion for this recording, as I want to admonish each and every one of you, no matter where you're located, even if you love living in a high-rise penthouse or luxury condo, that type of very closely knitted, dense city living or metro living, you need more than anything to get access to, possession, or ownership of some land. You need land to produce food if you have to. Gardens. You need land to grow some chickens, because in many cities within the city limits, you're not going to be able to raise chickens for many regulatory reasons. But there's a possibility, if you have a little land outside the city limits, you can raise some chickens within a chicken coop that goes vertical. You can build it kind of high if you're not in the city, and you can actually be able to have a decent meat supply just with chicken alone. So land is also a great alternative to provide you a quick and alternative housing solution. They have now what they call cottages, or portable houses, and they're not the full modular homes. They are what we call storage houses. They come in all sizes. Some of them are 12 by 40, or 12 by 28. 8 by 28, 10 by 28. They're great sizes, and some of them even have upstairs. They come incomplete. That means you have to actually put the installation in the walls, the drywalling or whatever planks you want on the walls, flooring, wiring, everything. But that's a great solution for some of you who know that you don't have the finances to buy a vacation home in the country and deal with that financial obligation 12 months out of the year. It is a lot more economical to buy a cottage building, a storage building, and begin to fix it up. Many of these things you don't have to pay for cash. You can purchase it or lease to own it. I wouldn't advise leasing to own very long, but I would advise you to attempt to pay it off rapidly, and then go ahead and purchase and get possession of it, so you can make monthly payments while you are fixing it. Some of them advise you don't touch it until you complete it. But in cases such as this, since you're preparing for an emergency, get it, start putting it together, wiring it, and get it ready to be used at a moment's notice in case you have to vacate the city or need an alternative living arrangement in any space or place. Land possession, ownership, or residency is going to be important. It's going to be important because some of you may have to offer some cottages or some buildings, temporary shelter, to individuals who are leaving hectic situations, where they are biological situations, criminal situations, governmental or civil. They're going to be coming back to the rural areas or escaping the city, even to get on the outskirts. We have discussed 4 significant items that should empower you and enable you in case there is an emergency and upon your decision not to participate in certain governmental regulatory decrees. These are 4 ways that you should be able to prepare. You should understand water, food processing, cooking and alternative, energy sources in regards to storing and preserving, land possession and ownership should be something you should consider. You guys be blessed, and I pray this brief discussion has given you some encouragement and some enlightenment. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments and we will chat later. Have a great day.